My guest, the host of two viral YouTube channels, Scam School, and the co-host of The Modern Rogue. He's the host of National Geographic's Hacking the System and the award-winning comedy podcast, Night Attack. How are you, sir? He's Brian
Oh my gosh,
Brushwood.
it's so good. I guess we should disclose that my name is Brian
Yeah,
Brushwood.
yeah. I just realized that. Yeah. So, do you ever get bored?
Oh yeah.
Because
all
you
the
have so many
time.
things going on. It just seems so hard to get bored.
Well, as a matter of fact, like the times that I'm happiest are the times that I'm swinging from fire to fire. Like that was what was so great about being on the road touring, was that at any given moment, whether you're on a plane, whether you're at a hotel, whether you are on stage setting up, or whether you're doing a show, at any given moment, there was nothing in the entire world I was supposed to be doing except for that one thing. I wasn't, if I'm on a plane going to Des Moines to do a show, I'm not supposed to be doing my taxes and all that stuff. Whereas nowadays, there's a little bit more free time. And it's great that I get to help out with the family and be kind of a stay-at-home dad some days. But it's tough because from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I feel like there's something more productive I should be doing. But it's certainly, as busy as it is, I'm actually looking to make it even busier.
Mm-hmm. So you basically said that you're never content. You're always trying to do more, right?
Well, there are moments of contentment. I mean, certainly when, the family goes on a trip or something, or we go to do. My favorite moments are the ones where there's nothing in the world I'm supposed to be doing except for what I'm doing. And sometimes, whether that's taking the family on the trip, whether that's being live on the air. For example, right now, it's even though it's quote unquote work to have a conversation and appear on a podcast, there's solace in the fact that that there's a million different things I know that I can't possibly be doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's fun to be totally focused on just one thing.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you feel knowing that you're so much in the public eye? You've really grown. Now you have almost 2 million YouTube subscribers on Scam School. You have a 1.5 million Twitter followers. Does it ever get weird to you, like how you've kind of grown over the years?
Yeah, if I think too hard about it, it's like staring into the abyss. When I first started, like I could do stage performances because I knew what it looked like to perform for 20 people, 50 people, 300 people, 900 people. Like I can wrap my mind around that. But whenever I would do a TV appearance, if you look at some of the early stuff, it's clear, man. You see that deer in the headlights look, and I'm just frozen and paralyzed by the fact that millions of people are watching this. And it short circuits my ability to be creative and funny or whatever. If there's a gift that came from Scam School and especially out of Night Attack, it's the reward of disabling filters. Oftentimes after a night attack, I'll wake up the next morning and I would call it the Night Attack hangover, where I'd wake up and it wouldn't be a physical hangover. It would be this dawning realization of like, oh crap, I shared what with the whole world.
Yeah.
And then my immediate reaction became, well, I just got to cover that up by saying something even dumber next time. And so at some point you start to realize that there's no penalty. Like all you have to do is tell the truth and disable filters, and you'll be more interesting than most of the people encounter online.
Mm-hmm. So are you at the point in your career where you get noticed, a good amount? Because you're still able to go out in public and do your videos without really being 100% noticed, which is, very nice, obviously. But
yeah, it's hot and cold. It used to be back when I was doing the outrageous haircut, there was no mistaking. Like, that's that guy from Scam School.
Yeah.
But then when I started wearing a normie hairstyle, a lot fewer people would recognize me. But when we're shooting on the street, it really is kind of hot and cold. We'll do an entire set of stand-ups, for 4 or 6 episodes with me walking up and down 6th Street and nobody notices. And then some other night, like there was one night we got stopped 4 times by random people saying like, oh my God, you're Brian Brushwood.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I asked Teller if he minded getting recognized a whole bunch. And he said, you know what? I get recognized just enough, just the right amount. Enough that it's cute and novel and flattering, but not so much that it actually interferes with day-to-day life. And I think that's I'm not there yet, but that feels like where we're headed.
Mm-hmm. So, because something I noticed was when you do like the all of the hacking the system episodes, you did a lot of things outside, and you were able to. No one seemed to know that this is Brian Brushwood doing one of his scams at all.
Well, I mean that's an artifact of the internet world we live in, that you could be super famous in one particular sector and the rest of the world doesn't know, doesn't care.
Yeah.
So I think that if for anyone who has seen any of my stuff, they perceive that, well, everybody knows who Brian is, but that's clearly not the case.
Right. So is it weird to you that so many people know who you are, but then you don't know that they know who you are?
Yeah, it's not weird. I think it's wonderful. So in the old days, it used to be that you could the only way to have a real interaction, a real friendship with someone, is to spend real-time communication, your face to their face, exchanging ideas. And that's still delightful when it can happen, but it's also woefully inefficient because both bodies have to be in the same place at the same time, available for the same amount of time, and they can only exchange ideas in real time. Whereas between the 3 podcasts and the 2 YouTube channels and the whatever TV stuff and appearances like these, I kind of adore the fact that there's a very real, what I think of as a one-way friendship. And it's not totally one way because you could talk back on Twitter and I'll answer or send emails or whatever. But it certainly is asynchronous. Would that be the word? Asymmetric. It's very unbalanced in that I'm able to share a lot with you guys and I can only hear so much so fast. But we exist to. It's rumored that someone asked Einstein, what is the purpose of life? And he answered, to serve. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I've always taken it to heart. And every morning I wake up, it's a question of what can I share? What promises can I keep? What friends can I make? And that's, it's not exactly a complicated algorithm. It's just basically tell the truth, be interesting, ask questions, mm-hmm. and be sincere. And it seems to have been working so far, so we'll see where it goes from mm-hmm. here.
How much time are you comfortable, responding, giving that to the fans, responding to them, greeting them on the streets and doing all that kind of thing?
I mean, every so often I'll tweet out, hey, just in case you're wondering, here's the balance sheet. I owe you everything. You owe me nothing. And that's that. It's like, in the great scheme of things, we need people to build dams. We need people to build bridges. We need people to teach kids. We don't need somebody clowning on the internet for your amusement, busting up his hand, freezing, smashing locks with sledgehammers and whatever. I'm glad that it brings value to people. I'm glad that people feel like they've earned something. But I am very aware that when I quit my day job, I traded having one boss for having thousands of bosses. And that's, so in that regard, I don't ever get the right to say no. I don't ever get the right to big time anyone. I don't ever get the right to act like what I do is important, because in the great scheme of things, solving malaria is important. Learning to lift 2 cards and make it look like one is not important.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed you do a lot of responding on YouTube. Do you ever just kind of find a lot of the comments funny, or do you just try to ignore them?
I'm not very good at ignoring any of that, because even if someone's mean, that is a data point, and I want to know as much as I possibly can about what I'm doing and how it makes other people feel. And if the answer is it makes them angry, I want to know why it makes them angry, and if it makes them cringe, I want to know what I could do to make it a little more fun for them. And so as a result, I listen to everything, and I try to respond to everyone like they're a human being. There's a fantastic, if you search on YouTube, I think it's a real person a lot like you. I'm going to search that real person a lot like you. There we go. Search the phrase "a real person a lot like you," and you'll get this wonderful snippet from the guy who created CD Baby. He wrote a book called Anything You Want, Derek Sivers, and talks about so often the comments people leave, they leave so it makes them feel good, and they're just blowing off steam, and they don't really mean it. They don't realize that on the other side of this communication is a real person a lot like you. And that's the attitude I've tried to keep in every interaction, in every platform, because it's not a magic box that we talk into. It's a communication medium that links us to other human beings.
Mm-hmm. So Do you ever think that back in the day when you had the hairstyle that it affected viewership at all? People kind of like turn would watch a video and be like, oh, I can't look at this guy's hair at all. Do you think that affected it at all?
Well, you got to remember that that for the first 4 or 5 years, Scam School was a part-time gig. My full-time job was touring with the stage show, and it would be wildly inappropriate for me to do a punk rock blood and guts stage show while rocking a very conservative traditional hairstyle.
Yeah.
Everything about the stage show needed to convey that, screw everything. We're breaking all the rules here. That's why you think you know magic, but not like this. And on stage and in real life, everybody loved the hairstyle. It was quirky. It was original. It was outrageous. But I do recognize that on screen, it just screamed a little bit louder than I think most people were ready to experience. And so as a result, it was a barrier to entry. But it wasn't like, it was such a dedicated haircut. It wasn't like I could style it and make it look normal at all. It was ridiculous. And so, but basically, you'll notice that around 2012 was when it's like, okay, I'm doing more stuff in front of the camera than off camera. So now my day job is doing Scam School and the podcasts and television stuff. And the side gig is doing the live stage performances. And so, it's the equivalent of, I don't know, showing up in a business suit because you just got off of work. It's like that was the appropriate outfit for my day job during those years.
Mm-hmm. Do you like reading the comments of people making fun of your hairstyle?
I don't. I really don't care.
You don't care?
Yeah. Mainly because it's a knee-jerk thing. And so lately nowadays, whenever somebody does that, my instant response is just to say, you're new around here, huh? and then like that's that. That's all I need to say is like, you are late to this party, sir. Mm-hmm. And most times people are like, yeah, no, I'm new. I haven't seen your stuff. And once you show up and interact with someone, it's astonishing how quickly they oftentimes will wilt under the pressure.
Mm-hmm. So, where did the idea for hacking the system come from? Is your audience geared towards criminals?
Well, certainly Scam School, a lot of Scam School is not that you would, but you could. We covered a lot of lock-picking stuff and covered street cons and crimes on Scam School, but everything on a very small scale. The heart of Scam School is, of course, here's a trick. Hopefully it fools you. Here's how it works. Here's how you use it to get a free beer. But we flirted with a lot of the more dangerous kind of underground criminal stuff. When I sat down to write Hacking the System, I thought to myself, what would Scam School look like if it was just times a million? And I started writing down just insane, outrageous ideas, like how to burn down a house in 5 minutes, how to mix chemicals to create mustard gas, how to vanish off the grid, how to hide a body, all of this, how to walk away from a car crash and all this stuff, all this outrageous stuff. And along the way, kind of a theme emerged, and it became the heart of Hacking the System. Everything from how criminals break into your house to how you can protect yourself from scammers and talk your way out of speeding tickets. And once it went through the crucible of television, because there's a clarifying element. You come with ideas, and they're like, we love these ideas. And then Standards and Practices gets a hold of them, and they have to say, well, you can't do that. That's too dangerous. Well, this is, might be construed as us teaching how to do a crime, blah, blah, blah. And so what Hacking the System ended up being was a slightly more friendly than I originally intended it. A lot of life hacks and, friendly, everyday, helpful things. But the good news is by the time Hacking the System had run its course, Jason and I had a stack of like 150 ideas that were too dangerous, too outrageous, too insane for National Geographic to sign off on. And so that's what brought us the Modern Rogue. Okay,
yeah. So you never worry that you're helping criminals, create some humongous crime you don't know about?
Oh, no. I as I'm fond of pointing out to everybody, for example, we taught how to make a bump key, and somebody's like, you're helping criminals. And I'm like, dude, the criminals already know how to do this. It's you who needed the lesson. and it's important, right? It's like an informed populace is the type that will not fall for stupid scams, will not buy cheap, shoddy locks, because they're informed, because they personally watched somebody make a bump key and show how easy it is to fool these things.
So what are some things you wouldn't show that they wouldn't let you show on the show?
Oh, I mean, take a look at all of the Modern Rogue. Everything we've done on the Modern Rogue so far has been either a more explicit, in-depth exploration of stuff that we talked about on hacking the system, or ideas that were perceived as too off-topic or dangerous to be on the show.
What, like the dark web kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. If I'm National Geographic, I don't want somebody in detail explaining how to get a browser that'll allow you to access the dark web.
Yeah.
Same thing for, we did the we taught how to make a gas mask, but if you watch it on hacking the system, there's a lot of careful language talking about how it might be able to help you in this situation or whatever. Because again, National Geographic takes very seriously the fact that their entire brand is backed by the Royal National Geographic Society. So everything had to be double source and fact checked and completely backed up. Whereas, we have a little more leeway on the Modern Rogue. So we were able to go back and revisit it, not only making it, but then actually setting off a pepper spray grenade in an enclosed room. And, we figured, what's the worst that could happen? We'll have a bad time and cry and cough and it'll be miserable. But instead, to our delight and surprise, we were able to prove that the gas masks actually worked. And I think it's a more compelling narrative as a result.
Mm-hmm. So where does the interest really come from in the beginning to care so much about finding all these, hidden scam things that really a normal Joe wouldn't really know?
I think it is a side effect. The same impulse that caused me to get into magic, that caused me to get into scam school, is what drives the Modern Rogue at this point. It's constantly thinking around corners, approaching things from a sideways angle. The same reason that every time in a video game, if there's a tricky class to play the game at, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure, whatever's obvious immediately seems suspect to me. Like the most obvious way to play a video game is to play as a warrior, plow your way through, punch, and fight. Whereas that's not nearly as interesting as playing as a thief sneaking around, or playing as a mage combining spells and setting traps to blow people up or whatever. And there's something about, like, if something is it's the same impulse that to this day, I'm now in my 40s, and I refuse to stand in lines ever. Mm-hmm. Like I will never, like, the most obvious way to get service is to get in line and wait your turn and get to the front. I will see a line and I will either decide, I'll go to this bar and have a few beers. Then when I come back, the line will be gone. Or I'll immediately think to myself, well, there's a long line on this one, but over here it says VIP and there's no line. So I'll walk up to the VIP thing and say, hi, how much would it be for me to upgrade my pass to a VIP? And they say, well, what's your name? And then they look it up and they're like, okay, it'll be $800. I'm like, that's too much. Is there any other options? And they're like, nope, that's it. I was like, okay, well, I guess, can I just check in with my regular thing? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then I did have legitimate VIP business that kind of caused me to go and skip the line. The real benefit is that I skipped the line, but also by talking to first class or VIP or whatever, I had legitimate questions, and then you end up getting a thing and get to skip the lines.
Mm-hmm. So going back, where did the idea for Scam School even come from?
Scam School kind of evolved organically. One of the things that would happen as I was touring is the Student Activities Board would oftentimes want to take me out for dinner afterwards. And of course they would ask, like, oh man, the number one thing they would ask is like, dude, I love seeing your magic show. Can you teach me a trick? And so I found myself kind of teaching the same 5 to 10 tricks. And then when I started, before Scam School, I started doing these little 5-minute vignettes called Brian Brushwood on the Road, which still exist. You can find them. 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And some of the best segments in those were when we hit record on me teaching some bar scams and magic tricks to people. And I realized, like, I think there's a show in here. And so around the same time, Revision 3 was trying to revive the spirit of old tech TV. And I knew some of those guys because I'd appeared on their shows. So I reached out and said, hey, I know you guys are focused on tech stuff, but what if we did a show focused on social engineering at the bar and on the street? And they said yes, and Scam School was born.
So how do you find the people to that you put in the videos that you present the tricks to?
The whenever possible, I try to get real people from the bar because that's the only way you get real reactions. There are magic shows that ostensibly are reality shows, but you can tell when the people react that they're fake, that they're acting. There's something ineffable that just radiates out when somebody fakes a surprised reaction. And so likewise, I don't mind sitting someone down, going through a whole shoot and realizing, well, this sucked, they sucked, none of this was good, we're just not going to use it. That's fine, although that happens much more rarely than I would think. Instead, the trade-off for that is that you get authentic reactions from real people. And the best part is there are 3 phases to every Scam School trick. You have the A block is me performing the trick. Hopefully it's impressive and the people at home think that's an awesome trick. I want to know how to do that. The B block is me teaching how to do it. But the most important one, and as far as I know, Scam School is the only magic teaching resource anywhere that does this C block. Because in the C block, I make these people who are not magicians perform the trick back for me. And this does 2 things. First of all, it is proof that anyone can learn it. But more importantly, it allows the viewer at home to project themselves into the spot of the novice. And they can see them making the kind of mistakes. They're like, oh, that's exactly the kind of mistake I would make. And then they hopefully see me catch it and give them encouragement and some advice on how to not make that happen. And so by the end, at the end of 10, 12 minutes, the person, no matter who you are, by the end of the trick, every single Scam School episode should be the kind of thing that by the time the episode is over, the lesson is so complete that anyone could do it at home.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that the idea for the show has to do with 2 vices, alcoholism and just in general gambling.
Sure.
Is it was that at all intentional?
Yeah, well, there's an interesting line with Scam School because on the one hand, I'm very aware. I want very much to keep it an adult brand. That's why there's always beer in the chute. It's always at the bar, and there's very often swearing and cursing. But that swearing and cursing is bleeped out because I'm also aware that there's nothing a 15-year-old boy wants more than to feel like he's a 23-year-old man. And so as a result, I'm very aware that our target is mid-20s guys at the bar with their friends. But I'm also aware that there's a lot of dads that watch it with their kids. There's a lot of youngsters that discover it on their own. And so that's why I kind of walk the line. We bleep all the curse words, which is the best of all worlds, because everybody knows what I said, but I don't have to be busted for having said it.
Mm-hmm. So where do you learn the tricks from?
Books. Magicians have a saying, if you want to hide it, put it in a book. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it used to be that books were the most obvious way to learn magic forever, but now we have an entire crop of magicians. There are kids 25 years old who are at the top of their game who have never read a single magic book and never will. They're going to learn all of their stuff from the internet. And so as a result, it makes my job easier than ever. Nowadays, what I'll do is I'll find books preferably 80 to 100 years old, and I'll go through and read because the fundamentals don't really change of deception. And I'll read something that I think, well, that's a dumb idea, but if you swap these things out for coasters and you use a pint glass instead of this thing and you change the plot and made it about Twitter, I think that could, there's something there. And then I'll just package it together and release it as a Scam School episode.
Are there any tricks that you kind of want to keep to yourself and that you will probably never show the audience?
Oh, sure. As a matter of fact, I did if you search on the ethics of teaching magic on YouTube, you'll find a 5-minute video where I sort of explain the do's and don'ts of how I pick magic for Scam School. The defining line for Scam School is when the episode is over, can they do the trick? If they can do the trick by the time the episode is over, then clearly that is teaching them the trick and not just exposing the method. If it's a matter of, you show the trick and you detail how it's done, and then somebody just scratches their head like, wow, now I understand. Then all you've really done in that case is you've scratched the itch of their curiosity, and that is exposure. That's not actual teaching. Mm-hmm. So as a result, Scam School will forever be limited. And I know there's a lot of people who teach magic who don't have this moral hang up, but I personally want Scam School to forever be the kind of thing where anybody, whether you're a magician or not, without having to go to a magic shop, without having to buy a special anything, you can make everything at home with stuff you have laying around, and you can do the entire trick based only on that lesson. That to me is a proper magic teaching tutorial that does belong out in an easy to access resource like YouTube.
Was there a favorite trick of yours that you were very excited to finally be able to show the viewers how to do it?
Yeah, out of everything, I would say my favorite thing that we ever did was one that we created especially for Scam School. It's called the Mind Control Scam, and if you search Scam School Mind Control Scam, you'll find it. But it's brilliant because the routine is one where you quote some lines of poetry. You explain that you saw this show on the internet, this called Scam School, where this guy had a crazy life coach. And he said that if you recite these lines of poetry, it forces people to think of one particular card. And so you recite the lines of poetry, and then then you ask, what card are you thinking of? And then they say, let's say the 7 of diamonds. And then you freak out. You're like, holy crap, are you messing with me? You're messing with me. They're like, no, wait, what are you talking about? You're like, that is the exact card the guy said he was going to do. And he was like, no way. It's like, dude, search on your phone. Here, open up your phone. Just search the internet. This guy, his name was Dr. Byron Doubleday. And so they search for Dr. Byron Doubleday interview. And sure enough, what comes up is a Scam School episode. It says interview with Byron Doubleday, Dr. Byron Doubleday. And so they click play, and it's a Scam School episode where I'm talking through, hey, we're here with Byron Doubleday. And the guy says, yeah, no, you say these lines of poetry. And 100% of the time, every single time, they'll think of the 7 of diamonds. I was like, oh, that's crazy. All right, whatever. And then and so when people see it, they're freaking blown away. And the method is ingenious and utterly stupid. We edited together 104 different versions of the interview, each with 52 different names for the expert. So basically, you tell the story. I saw this interview with an expert. He said that if you hear this poetry, you're going to think of one card. Then let's try it. And then they say the card, you freak out, and then you give the guy's name, and the guy's name changes based on the card. So if it was the Ace of Clubs, his name would be Coach Alfred Singleton, and if it's the King of Diamonds, it would be Dr. Charles Triplett. And there's a very, very simple algorithm that breaks down what the names of the experts are. But once you learn it, it's so easy. And what's amazing is it's just out there in the ether. Anyone could do this at any time. As a matter of fact, Richard Garriott, it was America's first second-generation astronaut. He went up to the International Space Station, and while he was on the International Space Station, he did this trick to his dad down on Earth over ham radio. So as a result, I can legitimately lay claim to the fact that I designed mind control experiments performed on the International Space Station, and it all was for a Scam School episode.
Man, that was a story I hadn't even heard before. Yeah, that must have been my video I missed.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think you could see a revisit of it on, I think it's called YouTube video proves mind control exists, I think is what it's called.
So is there a memory you have from a shooting? You've done, how many episodes of Scam School have you done so far?
If you count Scam School Remix, we are now over 600 episodes.
Wow, that's crazy. So
yeah.
Do you have some memory from shooting one of those episodes that just stands out in your mind?
All of them for different reasons. It's there was a great series we did on micro expressions where we learned how to spot a liar. It was fantastic having, there's one where Teller from Penn and Teller made a cameo in there. We've had all kinds of experts from different disciplines come and join us. It's a hell of a ride. It's a big rabbit hole to dive down.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite hack that you like to use?
Yeah, well, so recently we did a Scam School Remix episode of my lecture that I did at South by Southwest in 2009 called How to Scam Your Way into Anything. Yeah. And over the course of it, there's a lot of greatest hits on psychological ways to manipulate people. Stuff like using the word because. If you want to jump to the head of the line, if you just say, hey, can I jump ahead of you in line? There's a 60% chance they'll say yes. But if you say, can I jump ahead of you in line? Because
give a reason.
Yeah, if you get, well, it's not even that you give a reason. It's when you say the word because, it just short circuits. And people
Oh,
are like, yeah, sure. Because you can even give a nonsense reasons.
yeah.
Like, for example, the experiments was one of the experiments, they had them say, hey, can I skip ahead of you in line? Because I have to make some copies. And it's like, well, duh, of course you have to make some copies. That's why there's a line for the Xerox machine. And so that's not a reason,
Yeah.
but it had the word because in it. And as a result, people are like, yeah, sure. The moment they hear because, they just go for it.
So has that been like just like proven?
Yeah, no, that was a Harvard research study
Wow.
that put that together. And there's other things like the trappings of authority have an inordinate power over people. In one experiment at the University of Texas at Austin, they had a guy find a group of people waiting to cross the street, and they had him dressed two different ways, either in work clothes or in a finely tailored business suit. And they would, whenever the cars weren't coming but the lights hadn't changed, they would have him start jaywalking, and they would count how many people would follow this person jaywalking. And they found that when he was wearing a suit, 3 times as many people would follow him as he started to break the law and jaywalk compared to when he was just dressed in plain clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And then similarly, they've dressed up people in security guard costumes, sent them up and down the street, and just had them issue random orders to random people, like, hey, you, pick up that piece of paper. Hey, you, stand on the other side of that tree. And they found out that people were much more likely to just randomly obey if they were wearing what looked like some kind of uniform.
Mm-hmm. So since you've done so many different videos, is there one of the videos where you think you laugh the hardest?
Oh, geez. That's going to be tough because most of those times are when we're doing the Night Attack podcast, which if we were better hosts, we would probably be focused on, keeping everything on the rails and doing a consistent, good product that people would like. But instead, very quickly, it becomes a contest of me and Justin trying to figure out who can make the other one laugh hardest. And Justin's better at it than I am, which you can tell because I'm laughing constantly during every episode.
Mm-hmm. One of them I noticed was I was watching some of the some of the Modern Rogue, and you're doing the Netflix thing, and there was the example show, and you.
Oh my God, so funny, so good.
Yeah.
That made my day.
So were you expecting that or not?
Well, I was familiar with it, but there's something, how like you could watch something privately and get a chuckle, but when you're with someone else, it just becomes electric.
Yeah.
Because laughter is, evolutionarily speaking, is a way to indicate to other people a state of emotion. It's theorized that the reason we laugh is a release of tension, because when you're picture a bunch of Homo erectus or Neanderthals walking along, and then they hear a twig snap, and everybody goes into high alert, and they look over to the bushes where they heard the twig snap because they don't know if a wild boar is going to come out and attack them or whatever, and instead out walks a turkey. What'll happen is one person will see it and start laughing, and that break of tension indicates to the rest of the tribe that no, we're safe. And so that's why you'll notice so much of my stage show and so much of good comedy is really just an excuse to build tension and then release it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. What was it like getting to perform for Penn and Teller on Fool Us?
Oh, it was great. I've had a 20-year mentorship with Teller. When I was 19, I wrote him emails, and we've kept in touch ever since. But it was the first time he had ever seen my performance live of anything, and it was a delight. It was amazing and super satisfying too, because like while I'm close with Teller, Penn and I have never really connected on a personal level. So to have him say such nice things after the performance, just inside me was a second grade Brian just losing his mind with happiness.
Mm-hmm. So doing all of these videos and tricks and scams over the years, what have you learned the most doing all of this?
Find a safe place to be bad so you can become good. People ask me all the time, they're like, how do I be good? It's like, well, you be bad first. And the problem is it's very uncomfortable to be bad at anything. When I first started street performing on 6th Street, it sucks to be halfway in the middle of a trick and people just turn around and walk away. But eventually I got good enough to draw a crowd and good enough for the police to chase me off. Mm-hmm. Same thing happened with working on stage. Same thing happened with being on camera. I was very, very bad. You go back to those early episodes of Scam School, and there's brief moments that I appear to be able to string a sentence together. But by and large, I'm just stumbling around, barely trying to make something happen. And especially once we started doing podcasting and it became important to speak extemporaneously into a mic. I was bad at all of that stuff, but all of them I found safe places to find my footing on. And so now, I would say that my guess is the next TV project I do will be even better than Hacking the System, because I would say that was a pretty safe place for me to understand how TV is different from internet production. And I think I'd be much better able to play that game next time around.
So you don't like doing the walk around, try and like stop people in the streets kind of magic?
I mean, it's fine. It's not very satisfying for me. I do walk around gigs, and I've got good tricks, but it feels a little bit like work. Whereas something like this just feels like we're having a conversation.
So what is your advice to young performers out there who are trying to find a more direct medium, whether it be magic, comedy, or hosting a podcast or anything? Like, what's your advice to them?
If you catch yourself ever saying the phrase, "I'm going to," stop in your tracks right now and decide to do it immediately. Immediately. Do the thing, be bad at it. Everybody is terrified of looking bad, of not doing the right thing, of failing. Guess what? Anyone you respect in anything ever has the most epic stories of failure you could possibly imagine. And the reason they do is because they accepted the risk of failing and falling flat on their face, and they went right out and did it. And if you want to be in that club of people who are interesting and successful, then the price of admission is you also have to be in the club of people who are willing to fail spectacularly.
So one of the last questions is, who are your magicians you look up to?
Oh, certainly Penn and Teller.
Penn and
I mean,
Teller.
Penn and Teller were, I had seen magic be amazing and incredible before them, but I'd never seen magic be cool. There was something about their punk rock attitude, their populist, we're on the side of the viewer, not on the side of the magic elites, that just really inspired me. And I'm doing my best to try to fill that same niche for a new generation of kids who are coming in.
Brian Brushwood, thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely,
Where,
man.
where can people find you at, by the way?
YouTube.com/Modern Rogue. The Modern Rogue is our quest to become the ultimate badass, the ultimate warrior, gentleman, and scoundrel. Basically, if Houdini, Magnum P.I., and James Bond had a baby, it would be the Modern Rogue.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great day.
You got it.